Good evening, everybody. It's Rich here, talking cricket, back for another show tonight. If you're in the chat, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And if you're on Twitter, give us a follow at One Talking Cricket. Before we start, I've got some stats here from Cricinfo. I'll quickly go through them and then I'll bring the guys in. So the margin in New Zealand's win by runs in Wellington, the joint narrowest win recorded in Test cricket. West Indies also won by 1 run against Australia in 1993 in Adelaide while defending a target at 186, if everybody remembers that. 4 instances of a team winning after following on in the Test match, including New Zealand's win against England in Wellington. Previous instances came against Australia twice by England, Sydney in 1894, Leeds that everybody remembers in 1981, and India in Calcutta in 2001. 0. A number of times England lost a Test match out of the 177 instances when they took a 200-plus run first innings lead before their defeat at the Basin Reserve. The previous highest first innings lead resulting in a loss to England was 177 runs against Australia in 1961 at Old Trafford. 226 first innings lead conceded by New Zealand in this Test match, the highest they overcame to win a Test match. The previous biggest first innings deficit overcome by New Zealand to win a Test match was 144 runs against Pakistan in Christchurch in 1994. 6 consecutive Test matches won by England before their 1-run defeat in Wellington. It's their joint longest winning streak in Test since the record 8 successive wins in 2004. England also won 6 consecutive Test matches in 2010. 0 Test series lost by New Zealand at home since losing to South Africa in March 2017. New Zealand featured in 11 home series since then, winning 8, drawing 3. They won 8 consecutive home series after the series defeat against South Africa, but their 3 previous series, all since 2022, ended in a scoreline of 1-1. And one last stat before I bring the boys in: 248 runs by Joe Root in this Test match, the second highest aggregate for an England batter in a losing cause. Herbert Sutcliffe scored 303 runs, 176 and 127 against Australia during their 81-run defeat in Melbourne in 1925. So stats galore, brilliant Test match. Rob has joined us. I think Ian is here, and I think Neil, maybe not. They're here. They're all here. Boys, how are we doing?
Really good, mate. Really good.
You two at the bottom, all good?
England lost again. You can say all the stats you want. England still lost.
How are you, Ian? Are you all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, getting there slowly but surely.
Well, what do we make of it then? What do we make of it? We'll start with you, Neil, because you weren't here last time. So, look, we lost this Test match. We drew 1-1. You're probably going to pour us about Harry Brook tonight. No? Not about his bowling?
Little bit. Just a tad. Maybe.
What did you make of it? The series overall, only 2 tests, wasn't it? Which is a shame because it should have been 3.
I think the thing that obviously stood out is generally speaking, from the series we had at home last year against New Zealand, both sides, we know how England now want to play cricket, but New Zealand are always a fairly extravagant side and don't hold back. So we always knew it was going to be entertaining, and lo, it was so. And yeah, I mean, you can apply as much hindsight as you want to following on and stuff like that. At the time, I didn't think it was a particularly massively bad decision. With hindsight now, yeah, you probably would have gone back in to have a bat and really put the game beyond doubt. But no, as a series, I thought entertaining cricket throughout. The only thing I will say from a little bit of a grumpy perspective is if New Zealand had had a better bowling lineup in that first Test match, would it have been a different matter?
Possibly. possibly. So, did you two stay up last night, Rob and Ian? Did you make it through to 3:10?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you did, because I see you were. I'm in an orange. I went to bed at 12. I had to be up at 3:30. Sorry, I apologise. But I did wake up a couple of times and checked, and there was 8 down, and then I thought, oh, look, we might do it, and then. So, what did you make of it, Ian?
It was a fantastic test match. It's great that it went through to the 5th day. Another example of why we should never have 4-day tests. I think it was a great spectacle for the crowd and the neutral. And if you're going to lose a test match, then lose it in those circumstances. It was a really good test match. It's interesting. Neil mentions the New Zealand bowling lineup because watching it last night, as I did, I thought they bowled too short too often. It could have cost them because there was a lot of balls going over head height, which were being wided. Yes, we did fall foul of trying to play short balls and play it badly. There was a number of pretty poor shots. It was a great test match, and I think that the way that Root and Stokes batted was magnificent, really, because it got us back into it. I mean, they were both out to pretty poor shots, but it was a great test. It was a good series. It's just a shame that it's a 2-game series.
Yeah,
because I decided it would be brilliant.
Yeah, we touched on that in the last show, didn't we? About it was 2 games. Look, I think, Rob, if you look at all them dismissals yesterday, look, I know it's the way we play, but all of them are avoidable. The majority of them dismissals are avoidable.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. I do agree with you. But test match cricket, pressure, 4th innings, chase.
Yeah.
All the stats you came out with. Yeah, there's lots in that. I would say, for me, obviously, the obvious run out was probably cost us the series, and because Brook is just Mr. Cricket and he's unbelievable. So that's probably skewed it massively. I think for me, the thing about that one, and also Popes, if you just think back to Popes, those of you haven't seen it, Blundell's come up to the stumps for a couple of the seamers, which is amazing. Little page out of Folks' book, standing up to seamers, which is absolutely fantastic. I cannot get more excited about anything keeper standing up to seamers. Like, it's absolute poetry of cricket. It's beautiful to watch the way, especially Blundell, so clean. Pope has run that ball off the face like he's playing in a 50-over game for a single down a 3rd man. Forgot, because the keeper's up behind him, he's thinking, it's just a medium pacer. I'll run this down a 3rd man. Problem. Second slip, snaffles it. And I genuinely think, because the keeper was up, that brought up that wicket. And if you think about also the second with the run out, those of us who play, if the keeper's back like he should be normally, Bracewell's got to fire at one stump and he misses. So that, again, the run out came from the keeper being up to the stump. So whilst England could have avoided those, absolutely, I have to tip my hat to the excellence of the Kiwis.
Yeah, look, you have to give them credit. I know on the WhatsApp group last night, Ian, you weren't overly impressed with Ollie Pope's innings, were you?
No, it was dreadful. And I think I was watching it live. I genuinely, he put it this way, for those that didn't see it live, he was like a competition winner from a league side that had got to play, in the test as some sort of prize. It was absolutely dreadful. I think when the chips were down, we've all had bad innings and you don't feel it on the day, etc. But from ball 1, he was absolutely all over the place. He was coming down the track. I think that's right. The keeper came up. And he was he looked out of his depth. And I know we spoke about him on the last pod, and he's well regarded, and they seem to have him in the box seat for future England captain. But it was a really poor innings, and it wasn't worthy of his place in the test side, unfortunately. I know we got a couple of 40s in the first test,
Yeah.
And as Neil says, possibly against a lesser bowling attack, but you can't take that away from him. But it was awful, mate. It was, honestly, it was terrible.
He's one of them players, Neil, who he comes in there and he has to get back on ball straight away. I'd say the word I'd use is skittish. Is a lot of times when I see him comes in at number 3 and he doesn't look confident. I'm not saying he doesn't look confident. The first 20 balls, sometimes he looks all over the place. And I think against, look, New Zealand a good bowling attack. Australia, Stark, Hazelwood, Boland, they're probably going to have Cummins. You know, they're going to be testing him out. And look, we'll get onto the openers a bit later, but I think Ollie Pope, he's done quite well, Neil. But I still think, has he really? Probably in their eyes, he's nailed that number 3 down. Is in your eyes, is he nailed on number 3 for England?
No, not at all nailed on at all for me. I mean, you've got the issue of Bairstow coming back and where he's going to slot into things. But I think you're right. I think they have nailed Pope on. I don't know at the minute with Pope whether he's falling in between as possibly the likes of Duckett and Crawley are. And I said, you're going to come on to him, but are these guys falling between the cracks of the new approach and wanting to apply that maybe too quickly, or that's playing on their mind too much, that whilst, yes, it can give you freedom, it can also maybe think, or change your philosophy, your batting style to one that sort of trying to get on with it a bit too quickly, or look for shots that maybe aren't there, or trying to be too creative when there isn't a need to do so. I think there has been comments made that, was Root being affected by that? And then in this test match, he seems to have gone back to his old batting style, head down. I was going to say running down the third man. Maybe they shouldn't have done that this innings, but yeah, it just feels like, to me, that, like you say, there's a batter in there with Pope without a shadow of a doubt, but it just feels like he's trying to be too different. Whether I don't see enough of him batting in county cricket, obviously, whether that's his natural style or not, I don't know. But it just feels like he's sort of falling between the cracks of this new Bazball approach at this moment in time.
Yeah, because interesting comment here, Craig from Portsmouth. He says, personally, I can't understand Pope seemingly being talked as of our next captain, leading middle order candidate to be dropped when Bairstow returns, Rob.
Yeah, no, I nodded away when I saw that flash up a couple of minutes ago. I think Pope is really flattering to deceive. And when you're talking about a future England captain, it's Brook, isn't it? I mean, why would you look anywhere else other than that guy? Pope's not nailed on to be in the side. I think I don't want to jump the gun, but I think we probably all agree that it's between Pope and or almost certainly Crawley for the one who makes way for Johnny. And I'm sure we've all got our own little theories on how we fit 8 into 7. But Pope, I completely agree with Ian. I watched every ball last night, and he looked scratchy. He looked busy, but not in a good way. He was trying to do too many things whilst doing nothing at the same time. He hasn't looked good in New Zealand. Much like, I kind of thought Duckett might have gone that way. I think I've said on the pod or to you guys before, I thought Duckett was the one who's going to struggle against the seam in ball, but he seemed to churn out a bit of a method and got some scores. So yeah, it's interesting. It's a good problem, and that's how England will look at it. We've got 8 into 7, not what do we have a year ago? We've got 3 into 7. So bases covered. I'm sure we'll all have an opinion on it, but I agree with Craig. Absolutely.
When we sat here a year ago, I think we didn't really know where we're going, did we? And now we won 10 out of 12, and I think we'll probably all agree, and I reckon that most people in the chat agree, we should have won this test match. They made them follow on. I know that 226 the lead. Bit lucky in the end. They got them. Was it last 4 wickets for 5 runs on the back end of the 4th day? Because we would have been chasing more. But I still think 250. Look, last innings of a game. Test cricket's changed. Ian, how it used to be played. They should have won that game from the position. Look, from 80 for 5, they've got themselves in a good position. 200 for 5, haven't they, with Stokes? And then they should have won that game. Should have won the game.
Yeah, I mean, there was some poor dismissals, it has to be said. and I just think there were poor dismissals, possibly based on the situation, possibly the pressure of the situation, them not used to being in positions where they're a little bit on the back foot. You're absolutely right. Test cricket has changed unbelievably, and possibly within the last 12 months of this new approach. I don't think some of the dismissals were particularly sort of Bazball related. I just think they were poorly executed shots, Bazball or otherwise. Because without the Bazball, people were still playing expansively and positively, etc., and scoring runs. I think you're right about Joe Root. Just he needs to stick doing what Joe Root does best, which is being Joe Root. I think he's been tremendous, but I don't know if it was the Brook run out that was on his mind, but tremendous scores from him. It has changed. I mean, once upon a time, if somebody was chasing 260 on a fifth day of a test match, you'd have thought, well, maybe they'll get 130, maybe they'll be able to dig in for a draw. The fact that they were there and they were able to actually go for it after such an ordinary start, as I say, it just had everything. But yeah, they should really have won the game. But that's part of the beauty of it. That it was like a roller coaster. It was a tremendous game of cricket, especially the way that as I say, New Zealand were bowling, because I think the lengths that they were bowling, and yes, they did get wickets, and that was poor shot selection by some of our players, or some of the England players. But it took being bowled and LBW out of the equation. And I just felt that sometimes you got to bowl at the stumps, but they won on the strength of that, didn't they? So what do I know?
Talk to me about your tweet, Neil. I think on the first morning, what did you say? They'd cut the pitch. You did use the phrase they'd use a rolling pin to roll it. It was a good wicket, wasn't it?
I did. So there's a guy who's a very well-known groundsman round Preston, Adam Cooper. I've known for years, and Ian knows him. And he was praising the groundsman because obviously a lot of the comments were made about the green wicket and etc. And he said clearly, obviously the groundsmen know what they're doing down there, and it is right. You do see a lot of pitches like that still play perfectly well. Yeah, it did look like it'd been cut with a hover mower, let's be honest, didn't it? So, but yeah, you can't complain. The pitch was, probably the most natural thing out of the whole game compared to everything else. But no, it was strange look. But as long as they play all right, that's all that matters.
I was listening last night. I was driving back, and they were talking about Neil Wagner, Rob, saying this could be the end of Neil Wagner's Test career. He got absolutely slapped in the first innings, and then he's come back. I don't know with him. Like you say, Ian, I'd like to see a percentage of how many balls he bowled actually would hit the stumps.
I think he bowled in that sort of telling spell, if it were. I think he bowled two full balls and everything else wasn't. There's something about somebody bowling left arm sharpish over the wicket at your face that makes batters concerned for their welfare, and he's got he's done it for years, and he was genuinely first test he was 11 over biggest, I think, what was the stat, 11 over the most expensive 11 over spell, 11 over analysis, shall we say, ever. First innings rubbish, he barely bowled him, and then bit of a lifeline, chuck him the ball, and you saw with Stokes, didn't you? His knee was bad, and that's what caused that problem. Root's gone after him first ball rather than having a look. Folks is unlucky. I think he was probably gone. There's probably some Essex fans out there who'd stick up for him a bit, but he looked over and you could see it in his face, and then he just got his pecker up a bit and went again. And I think he's probably close to people worked him out. I think England played him brilliantly. To be fair, we played him really well. You say Stokes was injured, and like I said, Root probably needs to look at that one. But if you're 95 off 90 balls or something, you're flowing, aren't you? You go with it, don't you? But I think he's probably just about past it. I agree with the comments earlier about if Neil said, I think if they'd have put out a better side in the first game, we could have been under a bit more pressure. No Jameson, no Bolt, no Henry, etc. But that's life. I'd love to. You boys have heard me say it before for the last 18 months. Jofra Archer's the second bowler on my team sheet. Behind Jimmy. Jofra's unbelievable. He'd have been no fun to bat against on those two green tops. So I'm sure we'll come on to talking about him later. But yeah, Wagner. Well, we ain't going to see him now.
Just quickly, was it a wide?
Massive wide. I don't know about you. I watched it live and I was like, well, obviously that's a wide. What? Oh, you're doing that.
I think it was a situation that the umpire didn't give it, guys.
It's he's done that club cricket thing where he doesn't want the game to, when someone's on a landmark, someone's on 48 or 97 or something. It's like, don't give that. Let him get the landmark. So A, he gets the landmark, and B, so he gets a jug in. So he's done that, and not ideal in a test match. I think you say it's almost the perfect test match, but a tie would have been that one level better.
I want to come on to this with you, Ian, because you said in your tweet all results are possible, and I just jokingly, what did I reply? Tie. I was almost as close as your 2-2 predictions the other week when we played Sheffield Wednesday with Randall.
Yes, and the kick was an own goal, technically. But no, I think, all three results were genuinely possible. And it could have gone either way. And that's absolutely fantastic. It did look a bit wide. I think if they were being consistent with what they've been signalling as a wide previously, I think they probably would need to go in that direction. But, it wasn't given. I think it upset Jimmy a little bit. I don't know if it put him off his stride. It was wide, I think, to be honest.
Neil, wide?
I'll be honest, I haven't seen it.
Wow.
Some of them been stuck in Middlesbrough with a nail in our tyre all day. So I have, I haven't seen that one. I'll be honest.
But should we do some player ratings? We might as well get into these. We'll let you start, Rob. We'll go around the room. We'll start at the top, and then we'll go Neil, Ian, and then I'll go last. Zach Crawley.
That's a bold call.
Zach Crawley, scores of 4, 28, 2, and 24.
3. I've gone 3, mate.
Yeah, Andy's catching. Pretty terrible.
Yeah, pretty terrible.
He's not very consistent.
I just fear with Crawley that he'll go back to county cricket and get 900 runs in March and April for Kent, and then he's the best thing in the world again. He just feels a little bit undroppable. I sincerely hope they do, because, as we said before, we've got 18 to 7. Okay, so 3 for me for Crawley. Time for a change. We've said it before.
Just want to quickly go back before we come on to you, Neil. Chris put it in the chat. Best quote the opening day was a BBC TMS blog. The pitch is greener than Greta Thunberg's recycling bin. Zach Crawley, Neil.
I'll be even grumpier than Rob. I'll go 2. The bottom line is he's simply not doing his job. And you cannot have a good score if you are not doing your job.
Well, he was lucky to get 24 in the last innings, wasn't he, guys? You probably watched it. I listened to it on the radio, Ian, and when he was opening, and he should have been run out. He was. The mind seems scrambled with him. I think for his own good, Ian, I think he needs taking out the team, because the Ashes coming up, I was reading it, they said it's probably the biggest Ashes since 2005. It's going to be a pressure cooker situation. And I think for him, I think it's a little bit unfair on him.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things with Crawley and possibly Pope. If you're playing in a side that's confident, that's won all these test matches, that's playing with a different mindset, and you've got the ability to fail, because it's part of the process. I think there's less scrutiny on some of these players, and I think they can sit in and maybe not perform, and they're not under the microscope and the scrutiny that we gave the players after Australia last year, perhaps. But he does look, I think jittery. I think Rob used a similar term for Pope. He just looks like he needs to get on with it and not relax and not actually play each ball on his merits. I know it's Baz ball and all that, but you play proper cricket. You're in that team because you're scoring runs, you're occupying the crease, you're taking the shine off the ball, and all these obvious things. But I think did he get 28 in the first test, and that was about 28 for 4 as well. And this 24 that he got, I mean, no, those two scores, A, they're not good enough, but B, he was lucky to get any runs in both of those innings. I think he's probably I think it's where we probably need to make a change. I'm pleased for Duckett that he's made a fist of it, and I think he offers us something different. He's got some good scores, and it's not just because I backed him up, but he's done well.
You did give him the big rap, Ben Duckett, and he has backed you up this winter.
Yeah, he has, but equally made lots of calls that have gone wrong. So, we'll gloss over that. I've given Crawley 3.5, but it's a low 3.5. Richard,
I'll give him a 3. He's getting no higher than that. It was a decent ball that Southey got him out with, but massive gap there, wasn't there? Could get a bus through.
Can I just pick up on something Ian just said?
Yeah, sure.
The issue might well be with Crawley now, as much as they want to push down this line of we try and give everybody confidence, we would try and play with freedom. If you're that one person who is so obviously out of form within that group, and you're looking at everybody else laughing, joking, feeling confident, how much more maybe does that weigh on his shoulders than it might have done previously with others who aren't feeling quite so relaxed? So I'm just wondering whether he's feeling that more so now in such a relaxed environment.
Fair point. I'll give him a 3. Ben Duckett, Rob, 84, 25, 9, and 33.
5. I thought he obviously 85 in the first test was fantastic. Deserved to really go on and cash in. He's got a method. I was, Ian was very supportive of the Duckett case. I was very concerned that he was picked horses for courses for Pakistan, and then he's gone, runs, let's pick him again. Is he going to get found out on these fly-mo wickets? And he did all right. He had a method. And fair play to him. I don't. Well, it's not a direct comparison, but when Trescott came in, it was like, well, he's only averaging 35, and and he just stands up and go. It looks like he fits because he's got it. He's got it in the mind. He's been in, gone away, and come back like Swan did. I always remember Swan getting one game when he was 20, been for like 10 years, and come back fantastic. I just think he knows his times now. He's got a method. He's switched on. He's headstrong. Good luck to the guy. Left-hander as well. Like a left-handed opener. Really like a left-hand right-hand combo. I'll give him 5. I thought he played well in the second dig. Was unfortunate. Well, not unfortunately. He hacked at a wide one and got... Yeah, but that's how he goes. And I just think he suits. I think he fits. And so 5, fair enough. But I'm happy with him. There's, for me, like I've already said, Crawley and... Mr. Pope are knocking on the door of don't pick me more than he is.
Neil.
5, exactly the same. My only concern with Duckett is it's a little bit nick-offy at the minute. But I just completely echo everything that Rob says, really. He's stolen my thunder completely. So no, I'll leave it at that.
I think he's your typical left-hander. He's gonna nick off. That's a strong shot of his, Ian. That he got out last night. So I think he'll get more runs than he'll nick off. So I like Ben Duckett. I think he's nailed on for the Ashes. I think he's going to get a long run in the side. He's done well in the winter. If you look Pakistan, he done decent in New Zealand. If he'd got a ton in that first innings before lunch, we'd have all been bigging him up even more. So, what have you given Ben Duckett, your man?
Well, I've actually given him a 7. And listen, it was a really poor shot. Let me tell you, it was a really poor shot. What he's good at, from a very, very firm, solid base, is steering that ball to the sort of deep point boundary or just backward point. He's very good at that. The shot that he played was, as Rob quite rightly said, it was a hack. His feet was in the air. He wasn't balanced. He wasn't still. It was a pretty poor. The coaches will be saying, "Have a look at that." He knew that he played a really poor shot at a crucial time as well. So I'm a little bit disappointed about that. But he's the best opener that we've got at this moment in time. His 84 was good. He's a couple of other strong scores when he's needed to. And he gets an extra point, of course, because he proved me right. But yeah, I've given him a 7, but it's a low 7, Richard, a low 7.
I've gone 6. I think he's done okay. You say he's probably the only opener we've got, because if Crawley does, and I think he probably will lose his place, I know we'll probably discuss that on another show, but it's who opens with him. Ollie Pope, Rob. You're probably he's not going to get many points from you, is he?
Well, no, not loads. Have you got his scores there, Rich?
Yeah, he got 42 and 49 in the first test, and then this test, 10 and 14. He's always nicking off for me. He is.
I mean, we it used to be James Vince chat, didn't it? And Crawley and Pope. I've never been a huge fan. I get it. I'm okay. Like in the summer, he did all right. Well, I don't know what he averaged in the summer, like 38, 40. It wasn't big numbers, but breath of fresh air, and he's good in the field. He's probably one of the best short legs in the world, if not the best. But I certainly am just really absolutely against the next captain chat. I'm struggling with that, because you've got to be a lock, and he's not a lock. He's not a lock for me. He looks a bit dubious. He scored all his runs at the Oval on an absolute featherbed at the Oval, batting 6 in the Champ when the Flans are on, and he's got some easy runs. Is he a test number 3? You know what? I'll give him the fact that he put his hand up and went, I'll do it. But let's not forget, guys, a couple of months ago, Harry Brooks said, I'm not in the team. I'll open if you want. He said, I'll bat wherever you want. And you know what? Brook, for me, get him in at 3.
What are you giving Pope then? How many?
3.
Oh, he's giving him 3. Blimey.
I'll tell you what, 4. I wrote down 4, but I like the 3 because it kind of rhymes.
An extra for his catching.
That's absolutely right, Rich. That's exactly what I would have written down if I'd have written it down.
Talk about stealing my thunder again.
We'll let you go. We'll let you go first next time.
Yeah, Neil, you go first next time, mate. But I'm pretty sure we'll agree on Root and Brook anyway.
Yeah, probably.
What are you giving Ollie Pope then, Neil?
Well, I had said 3 with that 1 extra for his catching, so that's
there you
4.
Go.
It's exactly what you've just said.
We can quickly gloss over. What are you giving Ollie Pope in?
3 with 1 extra for his catching.
I've given him 4. I've given him 4 and 1 extra for his catching. So
I'd give him 4. I mean, 2 decent scores in the first test. I mean, he was walking a tightrope last summer anyway. I think he was a couple of failures away from being dropped. He salvaged that somewhat. But I'm with Rob. This talk of future England captain, he needs. The next England captain needs to be a nailed-on fixture in that side, and there aren't many of those. And I just think he's a bit. They've thought, oh well, he's like a Tim Nice but dim, if you can remember the Harry Enfield character. I wouldn't have him as England captain. I've seen a few interviews with him recently, and as I say, the way that he batted,
Even in the first innings, Ian, I think he come down the wicket to his first ball. Now the ball's
He did
moving
it for
around.
the second ball. The first ball last night, this morning, whenever it was, went through the gate. There was a big gate. You could get Greta's recycling bin through that, and then he took about 3 paces down and got nowhere near the ball. As I say, it was awful cricket.
Right. We spoke about some awful cricket. We'll let you go now, Neil. Joe Root. 14, 57, both to reverse sweeps in the first test. And then 153 not out and 95 yesterday. And batted properly, didn't he?
He did. He did exactly what I said. It was good to see the proper Joe back. You know, I think we all know what an absolute class batter he is, and the class showed. I don't mind him playing reverse sweeps if that's his little element of Bazball that comes in. And I know we know he can play him, and we know he loves that reverse lap over the slips. I don't mind as long as the rest of the innings is fundamentally Joe Root. I've given him a 10. No, I haven't. I've given him a 9. He would have got a 10 if he hadn't ran Harry Brook out. So he gets a 9 for me. And now Rob's going to say, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Go, Rob.
Yeah, that really. Mate, I just like the fact that he's gone. He went reverse sweep, and reverse lap, didn't he? First test got out. And I think he probably had a week to go away and have a little think. Probably talk to somebody who knows his cricket, maybe someone back home or whatnot. And it would have been a case of, Joe, you're the best, one of the best 3 players in the world. You, Baba, and Marnus. Just go and be you. And do you know what, folks? Folks goes out and plays his way at 7, and that's fine. And I thought he was phenomenal. I thought Folks was brilliant yesterday. Obviously, Ian, I watched every ball. I thought his strategy, whilst a lot of people disagree with, I thought he was a yard away from winning the game at the end. But Folks plays his way, and that's fine. Root has probably gone away for a week and gone, I'm playing my way. You're the best, one of the best players in the world. Just bat, Joe. Just bat, just tick. You don't need to do the reversey stuff. You can. You don't need to do the flashy stuff. Just bat. And you guys know I said when on that green seam on day 1, it was all over the place. I said, Root and Brook need to bat properly. The rest of them, you have a dash because you're not as good. But those 2 are the class acts. Go and play proper cricket. Leave the ball. Find the gaps. Run well. Put the rubbish in the bin. And that's what he does. And that's why he's awesome. So I actually, Neil, I'll doff my cap to you. I give him a 9. But I really like the take one off the running Brook out angle. So I'm with you on a 9, but absolutely appreciate your sentiment of one off for the run out because I was fuming. Mainly statistically because Brook's average is a joke and that has given it a big hit, and that's very sad.
See, what I liked last night, Ian, about Joe Root is the way they were in trouble, weren't we, 80 for 5. The way he changed the tempo and put the pressure back on them. Right, when Bracewell come on, he went 4, 6, but he didn't really take many risks. He just batted how he should, and I think now, look, we'll come on to the Ashes in a minute. I think he's the Harry Brooks. Obviously, we're going to come on to him in a minute. Joe Root, for me, if Joe Root has a big Ashes, I think England can beat Australia. I really do. I think he's the key man. I think he's nearly got just under 11,000 runs now, Ian. He'll beat Alistair Cook's record. Can he beat Tendulkar? Possibly. How old's Joe now? Is he 32, Neil?
31, is he? 31, perhaps. 32.
He's got a few more years in him. If he avoids injury, I think he can go close to Tendulkar. So I'll give him Root a 9. What about you, Ian?
I've given him an 8. I think Bazball is a solution to a problem that Joe Root didn't have. He doesn't need Bazball. and Bazball doesn't need him. We talked last year about the weight of responsibility of the captaincy being off his shoulders, and he can free himself and he can play how he plays. He's one of the best in the world, if not the best, and he was that before Bazball. So it kind of, sometimes you if you're really good at something, that he doesn't need to buy into this, lap the first one over his shoulder type thing.
It's like just quickly, it's just like Kane Williamson, Ian. He doesn't need to change. If he was English, he wouldn't need to change how he played. He patted prop. That innings yesterday and the day before was brilliant. It was how you should bat.
Yeah.
No,
that was a super innings. That was a massive part of New Zealand's victory.
Yeah.
We've not just been beaten by one or two players. I'll tell you what was fantastic as well was Bracewell's fielding was absolutely awesome. I mean, that run out with somebody diving across him, the pickup and the throw was exempt.
I think he had to make up for it with his run out, though, didn't he?
He probably did. But his catching was awesome as well. His catching has been outstanding. I'm not. He's no Daniel Vettori, but he's a very useful cricketer. But there was a number of the New Zealand players that you could pick up on. But I think we need to get away from this, and maybe it's modern times and social media. I don't know, this sort of binary outlook that we've got to have on everything. Basketball isn't going to be for everybody. We've got some really good players here. The bowlers. What's Bazball to the bowlers apart from funky field placings? Jimmy and people like that. They need to do what they do and do it very well. Cricket hasn't really changed fundamentally, although it is evolving. It was great to see him get runs. You could see that the run out of it had affected him, and it was a poor shot. But he's 153, not out, absolutely outstanding. So it's a high 8 from me.
Harry Brook, who wants to go? We'll let you go first, Neil. Come on, you gave him the big rap before he come into the team. Can you talk about his bowling first, please?
What I will say about his bowling, and I said this to my daughter when he got the wicket, or the morning after he got the wicket, I'm actually quite surprised they haven't bowled him a little bit more. Now, this is a really Yorkshire thing to say, but in county championship, particularly last year when Yorkshire were a bit light on bowling, he actually did quite a lot of bowling, and with his weird action, just nibbled it on and around top of off stump and was really quite useful. So I was actually a little bit surprised he hadn't been used before now. But yeah, all right, you got a bit of, it's a bit of a leg side burgle, isn't it? Let's be honest. But he is a useful bowler, if nothing else. But yeah, no, just he's just God, isn't it? Let's be honest, What more can the lad do? Surely there's got to be something else he can do. To follow Ian's lead, I've given him a high 10. Well, actually, I've given him 10.5, but
I loved his interview after the first day, in that they were chatting to him, and he was more interested about beating his dad's. His dad scored 210.
Yeah.
And that was what he was more interested in. He'd probably, if he'd have kept batting that night, he probably would have beaten it, because we all see a lot of players when they come back the next day. Decent catch by Henry. How massive a player is he going to be, Neil, going forward for England?
The only thing that would concern me, and this is a very modern thing, or maybe actually the more I think about it, maybe it's me being a little bit more old school. My only concern would be that he is that good across all formats that we could see a little bit of either burnout or him having to prioritise a particular format. I would hope that would be Test cricket. I can't see that being the case, but that's my only concern, is that he is that good across all three formats. That could have a negative effect. I hope it doesn't. At least in the short term, I don't think it will. But that's my only real concern about it. The other thing, just to touch on what you said about celebrations, one thing we have, as a family, have noticed is how muted his celebrations are when he reaches the milestone. And I think that's a really good thing. I think it shows he's very grounded, very sure of his own ability, but in a very measured way. And I just think he's got the world at his feet, or in his hands, whatever you want to call it.
Just a weakness, Rob. Look, he's scored a bucket load. Do you think the Aussies will target him with a short ball?
Mate, they're welcome to. I think couple of things. I've said, I think before. I think he's just finding, like yesterday, not his fault at all. It's he's just finding he's getting himself out. No one gets him out. No one's got him out yet. He's finding ways to get out, run out, not facing the ball. Just the way he's getting out looks like when he's batting, he looks like he's got so much time. He's got a method against the seam. He's got a method against the spin. You know, if those Aussies want to bowl short at him, or what, I just think he's a match. And like what Neil just said about is it's such a measure of the man that his celebrations are muted because he's not happy with a ton. He wants a daddy. He wants a 200. He wants a 300. He wants to keep going. He just looks unbelievable. Neil, I don't think he will prioritise the silly stuff. I just think, luckily in this country, we don't have those journeymen who go off and play. The ones who are any good. You know, there's not one player who I can think of who's really missed an England test. Maybe there might be an anomaly that I've forgotten. But, there's not been a situation where an England player's missed an important test. Brook will play 100 tests plus, unbelievable. I give him 11 because I can. He got a 10. He got a 10, but I gave him an extra 1 because he got run out. Which wasn't his fault.
Your turn.
He's a phenomenal talent, isn't he? He reminds me a lot of, not in his manner, some of his mannerisms and the way he sort of flicks balls about of KP.
Mike Bacon says that in the chat there.
Totally different personalities, thankfully. Very modest.
He wears socks as well with his shoes. Because
I believe he does.
On the telly, didn't like them bare ankles.
They're probably hiking socks, but no, he does. He's very grounded, very sort of straightforward, personable. But he is a talent. It was clear that he was a talent in county cricket. Neil quite rightly mentioned him on a regular basis, getting into the side. I think it's been a.
Where would he have been, Ian? Where would he have been if Johnny Bairstow hadn't have slipped down a golf tee?
Well, it's a really good question. Lions Tour. He'll have found some cricket somewhere, and he's somebody that works really hard at his game, like Ben Stokes. But he does make it look quite easy. He's got a really good temperament. I've given him a 9 because he could have said no. Wait, no. He's a phenomenal talent, and he's scored a lot of runs. Not too sure if he's a test bowler, Neil, but I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. I don't think Root's a test bowler, and he gets a chuck. So there we go. It's a high 9, though, lads. A high 9.
It's a high. I like this tonight. It's either a high or a low. I'm giving him a 10. Right, we'll move on to the captain. I see he's going to the IPL, Rob.
Yes,
mate. Are you worried that he's going? Should he be resting?
No, I'm not. I'm not worried if he's going. If he's going there, it's the knee is like a short term, or it's a grade whatever, or it's it's manageable. He's not. I do not think that man is going to go and chase a few quid, hitting 165 off 20 overs. Can we get it? Yes or no? Repeat. He ain't going to go and do that for a few quid when he will go down as one of our greatest cricketers and sportsmen of all time. He ain't doing that for the cash. He's fit. He's fit enough. He'll come over that. And if he goes there, nets a bit, talks to a few overseas players, garners information about what other people are up to and brings it back to us, then so be it. I just think he absolutely bleeds England, and we are his priority, and all the best for it. The way he's led this team is phenomenal, and an absolute breath of fresh air, along with Brendan McCullum. And if he's going there and he plays a bit, doesn't play, he's not going to be putting himself. He's not going to be putting himself in a position where he is not fit for the Ashes. I cannot believe anyone would do that.
I don't think he'll bowl there, will he?
He hasn't bowled much here, has he? But he might not. I mean, he walks into any team, any IPL team, any international team as a batter anyway. I know he struggled a little bit before the T20 World Cup, but we won that. So
he's still for me, guys. He gives his wicket away too cheaply. He batted really well yesterday in that first session, but there's times when he's too good a player to just slog one up in the air. I think sometimes, Neil, it's a bit of a waste. And I'm not saying just him. I think in general now, I know this is the new way we're playing. I get that, but they don't put the value that they used to do on their wickets. I don't think, personally.
Well, we said that in the group, didn't we? We were talking about Stokes' batting, and for me, exactly what you just said, Rich. He is a better batter than that, and I know for me. Forget Bazball. He can still be. This is what I said in the group. He can still be aggressive without batting ugly. And at the minute, it's like he wants to swing himself off his feet every time he tries to hit the ball. And he's a better cricketer than that. And it doesn't take away any of his Bazball emphasis for him to rein that back in a little bit. And I think at the minute he's trying, maybe a little bit like we discussed with Pope, trying a little bit too hard to fit in with that. If it comes off, great. But we all know you lose your technique, you cannot get the runs that you deserve to get. If you lose your technique, you lose your form, not your form in your technique.
No.
I just think he's batting ugly, and he's not an ugly batter.
What did you give him, Rob Stokes?
Give him an 8.
Just quickly, Chris Boyd, I don't know if you see this earlier about the IPL. Sky have lost the rights to the IPL. It's going to be on, I think they've got 16 games on ITV and the rest will be on DAZN. So if you're an IPL fan, you'll have to subscribe to that. I'm not that bothered if I'm being brutally honest.
I look at, if there's a few of the England boys, I love watching Buttler about what, I've said before, Butler's kind of the missing cog in this team, because he'd have absolutely loved Bazball. Butler, the way he plays, it absolutely suits him down to the ground. And is the door closed to him? Somebody in the chat very cleverly about half an hour ago said about, he's still centrally contracted. He might never say never, but I love watching Butler bat. If he's opening the batting and the game starts at 1 and he's opening the bat and he's batting at 1 o'clock, I might turn it on, but I don't care about the IPL. It's very average.
Quickly going back to Stokes, there's been a bit of talk. I was listening on Talk Sport, Neil, about maybe Stokes opening.
I hope it is just talk. not for me. Not for me.
I agree.
Especially if he's going to carry on batting as he is. I mean, for me, if he's going to carry on batting like he is, he might as well bat down at 8 and come in basically batting like Broad does. So
a night hawk.
Yeah, let's not cover that one off.
We'll cover that in a minute. Ben Stokes, what are you giving him, Neil? 7. Ian?
I've given him an 8. I agree with a lot of the things the lads are saying. He's had a couple of 30s and a 20 odd. I agree wholeheartedly with what you say, Richard, about valuing his wicket. I think he's in danger of, and it's great and everything. It's positive, and we're winning tests, and we're being competitive, and we're willing to risk the defeat to get a win. But he's in danger of becoming, because he doesn't bowl. He's in danger of becoming a professional captain, and I wouldn't want to see that, because he's too good a player to just sort of focus on that. My understanding, by the way, in the IPL is he's gonna stay in the IPL short in order to come back and prepare for the Ashes. That's what I believe, and I hope that's right. You know, I'm not. Listen, you know, the IPL for me. Tried to sort of reacquaint myself with it last year, but every time I turn it on, it seems to be the same game in slightly different coloured clothing, and it's not a spectacle for me. With the, I mean, it's great to get youngsters in the game, bit like that with a Big Bash. I prefer our 2020. I prefer the Blast, if I'm being honest, and possibly because I do go and see some live games as well. But you know, it's great to say come in from, I don't know, cricket nets on a Tuesday, and there's the Blast on there, and you can watch the end of it or whatever. So I do prefer our domestic T20 competition. But Stokes, phenomenal. But yeah, an eight, middle eight.
Craig says that he's back for the Ireland Test. Craig, I think that's at the start of June. We've got one test against it. I really hope, guys, that he's fit to bowl in the Ashes. I don't know if he will, but I think you know what he's like. He can bowl them 10, 12 over spells. He puts himself through it. But I think one day, soon, he's going to snap. I think we all know that because his body, surely he cannot. You see him last night there, guys, when he was batting, and he could hardly walk, could he? Now, that's not just good. That's not going to just go away, Rob. This injury, I don't think, because he's been carrying it for a long while, hasn't he?
He has done, but I can personally, mate. I can live without him bowling. I know it adds a bit of balance to the side, and he will probably, if he really needs to, he'll probably pop a pill or something and bowl a spell. But for me, he's a fantastic batter to watch. But he's just shown over the last year that the sole reason why England have gone with the same players from the Root, Silverwood, Collingwood era, with the same players, bar one or two changes, to turn it completely round, has to lay at his door. Yeah. And, you know, you talk about Mike Brearley and probably not many other people, but you talk about a leader who gets in the team on the basis of their leadership skills and brings the best out of the rest of them. You look at Leach. You know, Leach was, you know, the laughing stock, but Leach's figures have been fantastic. And you see the way they'll get around him and, you know, getting the best out of Jimmy still. And Broadie's obviously knows how to fire them up. And, you know, the batters, the way that he's just allowed them to be the way they are. And he's worth 100 runs and 10 wickets every game the way he leads. And for me, he doesn't need to do a lot apart from be there. I mean, we all know club cricket, you have somebody who bats 8 and doesn't bowl anyway every week. So Stokes is your man.
Talking about the man, we've spoken about it before. Ben Folkes, Neil, 38, 51. Bit embarrassing the first innings when he toppled over and he sort of face planted, he got stumped. 35, kept wicket well. Surely he's nailed on for the Ashes, isn't he?
To be fair, I was one who previously have disparaged him a little bit. Said his glove work's great, and yeah, he can pull the odd innings out of the bag. But no, he's firmly nailing that spot down now, and fair play to him. He still has his moments, but no, I think he's become a lot more consistent. So from that point of view, yeah, I'd be more than happy to take him as a frontline keeper for the Ashes. I think it's that consistency will bode well moving into that series.
What would you give him? I've given him a 7.
I've gone 7.
Yeah, Ian.
I've given him an 8. Actually, I think his body language when he was out, and even after the game, I think he was beating himself up a little bit, and I think it just shows how much he cares about it. I know that there was talk from the player himself about, you know, will I get in if Bairstow comes back, etc. I don't think if Bairstow comes back in, I don't think he'll be given the gloves, nor do I think he should have them. And I think he would probably, obviously, bat in a different position as well. It's such an important role that he plays, just in front of the tail, and just sort of as part of that batting, the last link in the batting chain, if you will. Yeah, nailed on. You need consistency. We don't need to change the keeper. We're not talking about him dropping catches and making mistakes. Yeah, made a bit of a fool of himself with the bat, but that happens. A bit like the Bracewell thing, and others have done it with some of the silly shots that they've played. He's nailed on. As I say, I've given him an 8.
Rob, I know you're a big fan.
7, yeah, agree with Neil. Obviously, me and Neil had a good long chat before the pod and just agreed to agree on everything. I think that's possibly where we miss Brandon, because we seem to be agreeing on a lot, whereas Brandon gives me lots of things to disagree with. So bring back Brandon, but not too soon.
I think he's in the chat.
He was. He's moving house tomorrow. This is why he's not here.
I think he's given Wokes a 9. I think he's given Wokes a 9 for
They're great on the sofa, didn't they? Look lovely. Very well groomed. Stuart Broad. Rob.
Can you give me some numbers, Rich? Just to I'll put a number. I'll put like a.
Do you want his batting?
No, thank you. Rubbish.
2, 7, 14, and 11.
Yeah.
Not great. 1 for 72, 4 for 49, 4 for 61, 1 for 79, 10 wickets.
10 wickets in 2 games. That's very average, isn't it? That's enough. 7. Spell in the first test at the under lights won the game, didn't it? 4 for Spit. Yeah, he still gets in the side, but you've heard me say this before. If Archer's fit, for me, I'd probably go Robinson is better than Broad, and is ready for Jimmy when he retires. I
was going to ask you, do you think Broad and Anderson will play in the Ashes together?
Yeah, probably. I think the way that we talked about, at first test they'll probably play a side, and if we win the first, they'll probably rest, and Potts will come in, and XYZ. Played the same team twice. Fair play to them. That for me says in the Ashes, if they're fit, they're playing. If they're fit, they're playing. The Aussies are scared. The Aussies are scared of them. The Aussies can't play a shot against them, and that's worth a lot. It means that they're going to be 20 for 1 off 10 overs, 12 overs every time, if that, probably less. And then Robinson can bowl his fiddlers, and then maybe a bit of Archer and maybe a bit of Leach, and it's just a nice, well-balanced attack. So,
where are you getting Archer in? Where's he coming in? Who are you leaving out? I can't play 12.
Tough. I know. I'll go back to what I said a minute ago. I think for me, Robinson or Broad, I think I can live with Robinson over Broad. To be honest, I really can. I think Broad has done okay. He's still got that magic spell in him, but for me, I'd have Anderson. Bear in mind Anderson won't play all 5, so I'd have between Anderson, Broad, Robinson, Archer, maybe Wood. I really don't. You chuck them up in the air and catch what you want. I'm happy with all of them. Absolutely. With the exception of Cummins.
Where were we first test? Edgbaston first, isn't it? And then Lords.
Yeah, home of cricket.
Surely Anderson plays in both of them.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not? I just think, like I said, they'll get a balance between Anderson, Broad, Robinson, and Archer and Wood. Any combination of that lot will do an absolute job. And we'll chase whatever they set.
Did you see Ian shared a little clip of Mark Wood today trying to take a catch, taking his shirt off, taking his... What did he take off, Ian? Was it his shirt, his shorts?
Shorts, yeah.
Everything. Yeah. Didn't quite get his shorts off, did he?
Yeah, it was...
one leg out.
It looked like they were having a bit of fun, didn't it? Which is good. We forget that we play. I know they're professionals, but we sometimes forget that we play to enjoy it. And it's great to see both the New Zealand players and the England players after the test mixing and enjoying it. It is entertainment. But yeah, I thought that was quite humorous.
Stuart Broad for you.
I've given him an 8. I think he's bowled pretty well. It's interesting because we did say that they might have a look at people before the Ashes. They didn't. They played the same team twice.
Was that a case of because it was 2 tests? You think if it was 3 that they probably would have rotated?
Possibly. And if it's a 5-match series, as Rob refers to, in the Ashes, I think they will have to rotate because I don't think Broad and Anderson would do 5, and there's a good chance that what we've seen with Potts and Wood and Archer, we've seen injuries, and so I think you've got to look at the bowling unit collectively and see who's fit and firing and pick accordingly. It might go down to injuries and form or conditions. So I think the bowling unit will switch around a little bit. But to be fair to Broad, maybe leaving him out of the West Indies is giving him a bit of a kick up the arse that his ego needed. But obviously he turned that into a positive and said just that, I think. But yeah, fantastic stuff. And they bowl very well together.
Neil, Stuart Broad?
I've given him a 7. Just because he bowled okay in spells and not quite so in other spells. But he's always got that one spell around the corner that will always turn a game. I think that's the one thing I do like about Broad. And he has got that fire still in his belly. But yeah, 7 for me.
What about his batting then? Talk about his batting, Neil. So it's a shambles.
Do we have to?
Shambles.
Bowlers bowl, batters bat.
You have said that before.
Agreed.
That's all we need to say then. That's all we need to say. Ollie Robertson. Have I done Stuart Broad for you, Rob? Did you do? I forgot.
I went first, mate.
Oh, sorry. I'll give him an 8. I thought his bowling was top draw. He probably plays in that first test for me, and then we'll see what happens. Ollie Robinson, we'll quickly rush through the next 3 because we've got a little bit more to chat about. I'll give Robinson a 7. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, 7. Next cab off the he like I said already, he's ready to go. I could have done with him getting a few more runs yesterday. I think it was a bit of a hack. I think he's a better batsman. He is a number 8. He could do a bit better than trying to heave that from there to over there, as you would have seen. He is fit. We've said it before. He's sort of, 2 fingers up to everyone who said he wouldn't last, couldn't do it. He's gone out and got fit. Addicted to fitness nowadays. Good on him. Really like him.
Ian?
6.5. I wouldn't disagree with Rob in so much that obviously Broad and Anderson's days are numbered, and he has turned things round with regards to his fitness. But certainly in these test matches, I think he got a 3 for in the first test, and that was about it really. He bowled okay, but 6.5. And as for a bit of a hack, I think it was it was an awful shot, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a lot of a hack.
Neil?
I tend to agree with you, and I somewhere between. Let's go 6.5. I would say somewhere between a 6 and a 7, which is 6.5. So I'll mirror Ian at that. I think there were times during these 2 test matches where he wasn't maybe quite as penetrative as what he might have been previously, but I totally concur with the fitness side of things. He looks absolutely raring to go now, at least, which potentially previously he hadn't. So now fair play to him, but now 6.5 for me.
Jack Leach, Rob. I've given him an 8.
Yeah, he's a good bowler. He's a good bowler, and he's a good batter as well. And I said earlier that if Folkes' strategy was fantastic, you look back and go, you know what? Leach looked in no trouble at all. He could take those singles. But hey, bowling wise, I did big him up, didn't I, boys? I thought he'd get the wickets. Yeah, he ended up getting some cheap ones at the end, but I thought he bowled pretty well. It's a lot of small ground, small straight, green seamers. Didn't bowl. I can't remember him bowling many flans. I think he bowled pretty good areas, and he just bowls with that confidence that Stokes is on his side. The boys, he's got Pope doing him favours. He feels part of the team. I give him a 7.5. He's the best we've got. He just is. My man, Mr. Ahmed, is probably a year or 2 off taking over the mantle of the first spinner, especially as a leggy as well. But Yeah, he's safe for a couple of years.
He's in Bangladesh, isn't he, Ahmed?
Mm.
So we're probably,
Yeah,
we're
England-
probably in tomorrow, won't we? 6 o'clock. That
England
starts
play
tomorrow,
in 8 hours' time.
yeah, 6 o'clock. So we'll probably see him. Ian, Jack Leach.
6.5.
Where is Matt Parkinson? We talked about him till the cows come home on this pod.
Where is he right now?
Where is he?
Matt,
In bed.
mate,
Probably listening to the pod.
probably. Yeah, I've given Leach 6.5. Yes, is he the best we've got? That's an interesting question. He just seems to be, and I think he's getting a bit carried away with Bazball with some of the shots he plays. He's better than that. He had a few wild sort of swishes. He seems to be everybody's mate, and he's there. I don't want somebody to be in there just because they're, he's a likable lad. I'd like to see more competition for the spinners' place in the England side. That's not down to Jack Leach, so that's no criticism of him. Yeah, and he got a 3 for and a 5 for. Yeah, all right. Some of them are a little bit bought, but what can't speak can't lie. I don't dislike Leach. I need to put that on record. But I think if somebody, whether it's Ahmed or somebody else, comes along, I think he is replaceable.
Fair point. Neil, Jack Leach.
7.5 I'll go for on Leach. I think he genuinely bowled a lot better in these 2 tests than he might have done previously. I completely agree with his batting. He needs to put all the reverse swishes and when he first comes in away. But if he puts that away, I almost do agree with Ian that. Or Rob should have said at the minute that I think he is about the best option we've got. That would pain me to say that because I've said it in the past. I think he's the best of a bad bunch right now. We don't have. I agree. I'd love to see a standout spinner come out. So yeah, but no, just generally doing his job. We said it about others. He's doing his job at the moment. And as for Matt Parkinson, I believe his main thing at the minute, Ian, is appearing on really bad TikTok announcements of Richard Gleeson's new contract, which seem to be all over Lancashire's social media at the moment.
I did notice that. Only because he's Richard Gleeson's one of the batters I have actually got out. I know he's a bowler and he was a young lad, but again,
drop one in there, Ian. Why don't you?
And Lewis Rees was another victim in that same game. No, listen, Matt Parkinson. He's not progressed as much as I think we hope that he would. But I mean, if you look around at some of the spinners in the county game, it's a bit threadbare, a little bit threadbare.
On my shoe, the dogs have my shoe while we're on the pod. Look, a bit threadbare.
Yeah, good analogy.
James Anderson, back to number 1 in the world, Rob.
Yeah.
How long can he go on? We spoke about him before on it. How long can Jimmy go?
I'm not putting a number on it. I mean, there's something that says go and win the Ashes 5-0, 4-1, whatever, and go out.
We can come on to our predictions in a minute. I know you'll be bold.
If he wants to keep going, who's going to stand in his way? He's the number 1 bowler in the world for the love of Christ. That is all you got to say. He gets a 9 from me. He'd have got a 10 if he'd have won the game till last night. He's the best bowler in the world. He's 40. He keeps getting better. Stop talking about retiring. He's fit as a fiddle. Move on.
Yeah. Ian?
Yeah, I've given an 8.5. He's had a couple of 4-fers and a 3-fer. He's fantastic. And, that's not just looking at it through red rose tinted spectacles. He's outstanding, on what a sportsman, what a professional. It was a little bit disappointing with the with the bat there, but again, no, he's not there to bat. But I think he was as cheesed off as anyone. But there's lots of things in the game that we could have looked at. But he's what an ambassador for cricket he is. Fantastic.
Closing in on 700, Neil. What do you give him?
I'm giving him an 8. I just think it's incredible how he has kept himself at the top of the game. To go back to the world's #1 bowler, he's just phenomenal. It pains me to say it as a Lancastrian, it really does. But, you can't begrudge the fella. The work he's put in over the years, just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. There's nothing more to say about him, and the way he has developed his bowling style and developed wobble seam and his control of swing is just unbelievable. So, no, he deserves all the success he gets. And, let's hope he can prove pivotal in the Ashes as well.
Yeah, right. We'll quickly come on to Ashes thoughts. 108 days to go. Let's have some bold predictions. Come on, Rob. You'll have a bold prediction. What's your predictions for the Ashes?
4-1 England. We will blow up and be crap in one, probably the first or the last, just to mess about, and then we'll just absolutely smash them by scoring far too many runs, bowling them out on our surfaces, and crowds behind us, and we're gonna have a great summer. Bring it on.
Ian.
2-2. To be fair, that's what I normally predict on the football as well. I think it's going to be a great series. I think Australia are struggling a little bit in India, but I think most teams would do that, and I think they're in. I don't think they're going to be as strong as they were when we played them last year, and I think we've obviously got this renewed confidence. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope Rob is right.
Usually, mate.
I'm going to go with something that somebody in the chat said, and I apologise to whoever it was, but I looked at it and completely agreed. 3-1 with obviously Manchester washed out because it's Manchester. And I just think that what Rob said about the bowling attack will be the difference between what happened in the last Ashes and this one. I think we've got a far more balanced, far more penetrative, dangerous with Archer and Wood. Remember, Wood was probably our best bowler in the last Ashes, and I think that with Archer now and a little bit of fragility in the Aussie batting lineup at this moment in time, I think that will prove pivotal. And 3-1 England. Do
you think Warner? Just quickly, Neil. Do you think Warner will make the trip?
He'll make the trip, and I'm praying that he gets a game.
Yes,
because I think that's where the fragility is right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to love absolutely throwing it down the throat of our Aussie who's coming over every single Saturday.
I'm going to go 3-2, but I'm not quite sure what way. I'll say 3-2 England. I think it's going to be a great series. I don't think there'll be any draws. If there's a bit of weather around, maybe, but I think there'll be results. Was it 2001? I think the Australians last time they won over here, so they're obviously looking to put that right. I'll go 3-2 England. Right, before we close, Ian's gonna chat a little bit about the women's T20 World Cup. England fell at the semi-final hurdle, didn't they?
They did. I think, as we mentioned on the last pod, I think we predicted the 4 semi-finalists, but mentioned, don't write off South Africa, and so it came to pass. Every credit to South Africa. I think South African cricket at the minute is going through a little bit of a renaissance. They've needed it because of various issues that they've had financially and with their organisation. I think Dean Elgar will go from strength to strength without the captaincy as well. But Australia, I think we predicted that they will win it. They did. They've won the last 3 T20 World Cups in a row. They've also won the last 6 out of 7 T20 World titles. they're absolutely phenomenal. You know, Beth Mooney got 74 not out in the final.
I agree with Craig from Portsmouth there, Ian, in the chat. He said Australia weren't even at their best to win it.
No, I mean they had one or two players out, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, they're used to winning. It's a great habit to be in. I mean, England, we got into a habit of losing, and now we're into more of a habit of winning and certainly competing. But Australia, it's just a different level. I think England. Listen, it's no failure to get into the semi-final. Nat Sciver-Brunt, 216 runs at 72. She was the batter of the tournament, and Sophie Eccleston 11 wickets at 7.55. But I think old Catherine, I think she might be coming to her retirement. She's retired from all other forms of the game, and I think this is probably something she's considering. But we'll see. But John Lewis, the coach, is very confident about England's women's team. And he thinks that the 100 and the women's IPL, of course, that's upcoming next month.
That was interesting. They had it was while the tournament was on, wasn't it? I think it was. Were England playing when the draw they were doing it? Was it? Did they have a game that day?
Yeah, like the second game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Some of them knew, some of them found out afterwards. Yeah, pretty odd because it's life changing for them, isn't it? But
Massively.
like Chris Boyd says in the chat, you know, England breezed through all their games. I was gutted Thursday because I thought, you know, Australia, but we looked good. We looked like it was. I'll say it. It was pretty baseball-y. It was like, right, we're not getting 130 because that wins you a game. They were getting 180. Pakistan, we absolutely tuned them. We were brilliant, and then just to fall short there, and like Chris might say, you know, we didn't get tested until the semi. I think we'd have beaten the Aussies in the final. I really do. Shootout, the way we were going, if it comes off and we tee off and get 200, and then Eccleston goes, you know, 3 for spit because she's the best bowler in the world and probably is a better bowler than Leach. He says, you know, pick her anyway. Yeah, I was gutted because I thought we could have won that, and you have no divine right to win it. And yeah,
I think the one over, wasn't there? 3 wickets they lost, didn't they? 1 over, England changed.
Yeah, I say we lost it. I think we lost it when Brunt went for 19 off the last, and we lost by 6. You can look at that. You can look at anything, like with the test. You know, you lose by 1 run, you look at anything. So I agree with Neil. I think she's probably past it and will probably vanish, disappear. There's lots of young ones coming through. You know, there's lots of, you know, the under-19s did really well, didn't they, recently? And there's plenty of girls knocking on the door. We've got the most players in England playing decent cricket, so hopefully we'll go to strength to strength. I watched England South Africa. I said to you guys, I watched England women against South Africa in the summer at Chelmsford, and it wasn't a contest. You know, we battered them. To lose there,
was a massive there as well, wasn't it?
Exactly.
You know,
yeah, in both cases, but yeah, they'll be absolutely gutted, and that'll hurt for a while until they get their IPL checks, and then they probably won't care.
Well, I think England benefit from having a really good domestic situation. They've got the 20 over Charlotte Edwards Cup, and they've got the 50 overs Rachel Hayhoe Flint, and the ECB have moved away from the central allocation process that they had. And they're letting regions and individuals make the decisions of where they play. So the players have got a bit more flexibility. It's all linked to the development as England players, which is why they were restricted. But that should lead to better competition. You know, so they've they're playing from April to July. Then they've got the 100, and then September they've got some games, and they've got the final of 50 over on the 24th of September, I think it is. And then they've got the Charlotte Edwards Cup, the 2020, from May through to finals day in mid-June. So they've got I think they're trying to replicate. They're trying to better what the Australians have got in a way to try and compete with them. But you're absolutely right, Rob. I mean, they're a great side and a great advert for positive cricket.
And it's Women's Ashes this summer, so hopefully, Neil, it'll be the men's and the women's both winning the Ashes. Wouldn't that be great?
England double. More ammunition for our Aussie. Excellent. Bring it on.
There you go. Anyway, before we close, any other business from any of you three? Anything you want to say?
Just getting the badge in, mate. Get the badge in.
Neil, anything?
Nothing from me other than I will mention that I do believe we were talking about Neil Wagner's downfall, and I do believe Yorkshire have signed him.
Just been around, isn't he?
And Worcester have signed Bracewell, and he is average, as mentioned.
The Lancs have got Mitchell and the Gronko.
Yeah, Mitchell and Big Colin. And Dame Villas will be classed as overseas as well, I think. Yeah. Let's see if
where is the game being shown tomorrow? Anyone know where the one is? It the ODI? Is it on Sky?
That's a great question. I know it starts.
TalkSport got the commentary. I know that's on TalkSport too.
Can someone tell me, because I can watch it?
Give me a second.
Have to have a look. We'll have to have a look around. Anyway, cheers for everyone tuning in. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Pretty lively tonight, and we will see you all on the next show, hopefully with Brandon.